Alright, friends. We're back for part B. Let's keep going. I've been thinking about this. I went and poured my drink and got myself some cheddar cheese. And it's a tough case. Tough case to crack. Alright, let's keep going.
Right. Yeah. No, and that does make sense.
Oh, we're at the end of that one.
So I don't know how many times I've seen people in their lives, and I've interrupted their lives, randomly started talking to them, given them a little bit piece of knowledge or wisdom or something, just guide their path slightly, because I could see their future with Expert Intuition Hero. Expert Intuition is all about looking into the will of other people. It's aware of what other people want, what other people are going to do before they do it, their desires, their future. I can literally see into the future of other people, and then I just say that one thing that kind of course corrects their future a little bit if they listen to me, and then they end up having a better life.
Okay, that sounds like an ENFJ thing to me. Just throwing that out there. He's not chasing me away from INFJ by saying that. In fact, even Carl Jung had to say about introverted intuition that INFJs were, or introverted intuitives, were very good at talking to someone and then understanding sort of some deep things about that other person when they have never met that person before or didn't know them from Adam. So that's not something I've found that ENTPs are quite so good at, because it requires a certain level of definitiveness about the future. Being able to see some kind of like singular future that somebody's on, like a path that somebody's on, and being able to identify what needs to change to get them on a better path. That's why INFJs are often seen as kind of like guru figures. So everything he just said to me sounded like an INFJ thing. Or ENFJ could be. What if he's an ENFJ? He could be an ENFJ. It's possible. Could it be an ENFJ that thinks he's an ENTP? That would be interesting. Alright, what about these other types? Do we think he's anything else? Do we think he's not anything else? Well, I thought about if he was an ISTP. I don't think he's an ISTP. ISTP would not appreciate the kind of cult following that he has. Pretty confident of that. Just like ISTP would just be like, go do your own thing. Is he an ENFP? I don't sense introverted feeling quite so much anywhere near what you would get from an ENFP or an INFP. So I don't think he's either of those. Honestly, I want to rule out ENTP. Just because he doesn't seem to use extroverted intuition a lot, but for his sake, we'll keep it up there, though. I don't think he's an ISFP. This doesn't sound right. He's thinking all the time. Whatever he's doing, he's thinking a lot. Which probably rules out ESFJ as well. Not that ESFJs don't think, but that's not what they're doing. That they're interacting with the world a lot more. What other ones can we possibly rule out? I kind of feel like we could rule out INTP pretty confidently. He doesn't seem like an INTP to me. I don't think he's using introverted thinking to that strong of a degree. Because he would be... His introverted thinking is like, he's using a lot of introverted thinking, but it's like, it's very squirrely kind of or something. I don't know. It's not the kind of like cold hard logic that you get from INTPs. It's really not the kind of cold hard logic you get from ISTJs either. So let's put that one to bed as well. He is a tough nut to crack, though, I have to say. ESFP? No, probably not an ESFP. That would be unlikely, considering his low introverted feeling preference. In fact, I would say he's probably confused by his feelings. I'm gonna put a check mark next to FETI. I think he's very confused about his feelings. I think he has a much better grasp on other people's feelings. I'm pretty confident that he's using introvert intuition, but I want to be sure. Let's see here. So we got 2 extroverted thinking, 3 extroverted thinking types, and 4 introvert, 5 introverted. Could be ISFJ. No, he's probably not an ISFJ. He's probably not an ISFJ. That would be really out of the ordinary for an ISFJ. So we've got him down to what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types. All right. Well, it's less than half. Is there any other ones we can eliminate? TE Dom? Can we eliminate TE Dom? Yeah, I don't think a TE Dom would be happy with all this crazy stuff he makes up. He makes up a lot of stuff. Alright, I don't think a TE Dom would appreciate that. I think they would be like, yo, dog, stick to reality. So let's see, what are we looking at now? ESTP, INFJ, ENFJ, ENTJ, ENTP, or INTJ. And ENTP being the only extrovert intuitive of the bunch. I think considering how many of the other ones are introverted intuitives, I think the odds are very slim that he's an extrovert intuitive, so I'm just going to put X with a question mark over ENTP. We're going to put the X in the question mark over the NESI. He's not going to be happy about that. I don't think you're an ENTP, Chase. I'm leaning XNFJ though, but it seems like you would be more in tune with other people's feelings if that were the case. So maybe not. I don't know. You're a tough nut. Could you be an ESTP? It seems unlikely, but it's possible. Alright, let's keep going.
I don't know how many times I've had that conversation with people where I just said, hey, if you do this, you'll get this, you know? And then they do it, and then like 2 years later, they're...
Oh geez, what's up with the audio? What is up with the audio?
And then like 2 years later, they're thanking me for it. So for example, I actually have a really good example of that. There's this guy. He was 20, 25, 26 years old. I was talking to him. And I don't even know why, but he got involved with a 16-year-old one time. And like they were having a relationship. It hadn't gotten physical yet, but it was pretty close to getting to that. And he wanted to like go to her mom and talk to her about it and see if anything can happen. I'm like, dude, you're a moron. and I ripped him a new one. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Dude, she's underage. In most states, that's statutory rape.
Getting cut off here for some reason.
States, that's statutory rape. Are you prepared to go to jail? You know, well, it's not like that. We're really in love. And I'm like, dude, she's 16. She doesn't even know that. So what I did was I accused him of being, you know, incapable of, like, comprehending what manhood even means, gave him some tips on it, and he immediately stopped his behavior.
So, interesting. So he's like, you don't understand what X means. So he's basically like saying, I understand what X means, introverted intuition, but you don't understand it. And he's trying to change the other person's behavior, which is a total FE thing. And a TE thing would be like changing their actions, like to align with what's logical. But an FE thing is like changing someone else's behavior for moral reasons. So he's doing an FENI thing right there. Sorry, Chase, you're really giving me a good reason to think you're an ENFJ there for that. Yeah, let's keep going.
Turns out, 8 months later, he contacts me.
By the way, he's really bad at the SI part of this. He's really bad at knowing exactly when things happened, or exactly how old people were, or exactly what happened. So it's clear more and more the more I watch him that he has zero, not zero, but like very poor introverted sensing ability. Which, I mean, I do too, by the way. So it's not like an indictment of him, like there's something wrong with him. It's just, I'm saying, like, people who prefer introverted sensing have a better time explaining definitive details about things that have happened because somehow they have a better catalog of memory, they have a better understanding of like reference points within their past and stuff. And introverted intuitives, they generalize. They're like, like 5 or 10 years ago, or like 6 or 8 years ago, there was this guy, and he was kind of, and he said something like this, and it's like, introverted intuitives speak very much in generalities because they only kind of absorb the sense of what's happening. They don't necessarily soak in the sensory details of exactly what's happening. They soak in the meaning of what happened. So if you listen to Chase talk, you'll hear these generalities and things, which I do that as well. I'm just saying that's an introverted intuition thing by my observation.
Out of random. I never thought I'd even see the guy again, but somehow he gets a hold of me, and then he's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm happily engaged now, we're getting married, I got a house, I got a very nice new job, everything's working out for me, all thanks to your advice. And it's just like, okay, what? Really? That was the thing? Why do ENTPs do this? Well, the answer is FE child.
Okay, alright. No, I don't know. It sounds more like an INFJ thing, actually. It doesn't sound like something an ENTP would probably care a whole lot about, or maybe not to the degree that he does. He doesn't want to be misunderstood. Like, he wants to say what he thinks is the morally correct position to take. Do this, divert the problem that I foresee in your life, this introvert intuitive thing that I'm foreseeing for you, and that's why you should change your morals. And the person didn't change their morals and then misattributed their behavior to what Chase said, and that was upsetting to him. And that's why he told us about it, because he was like not happy that somebody misunderstood him and then did something completely against his sort of moral point of view. So it's not something a few different types probably would care about. I really don't think an ENTJ would probably care about that, and I really don't think an ESTP would care about it. Let's say definitely not an ESTP. I feel like ESTPs would not dwell in any way not to that degree, the way he is about on like advice that they gave about what the moral thing to do was. Chase is doing a total NF kind of thing here in what he's talking about. It's really, he's really like losing me for ENTJ or INTJ actually. Not that neither of these types are moral, now mind you, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is he's remembering specifically that he had this sort of moral judgment to make and recommendation for somebody, and they did the exact opposite of what his advice was, and then they misattributed what his advice was to him, which really upset him because that was not, he did not want to be misunderstood. He didn't want to be have his point of view misattributed, and he didn't want anyone to make a decision in their life that was counter to what he wanted them to make, because he could see what their future would be. This is total INFJ kind of thing. So I'm leaning so strongly towards INFJ now, and I never would have dreamed at the beginning of this video that that's where I would end up potentially with C.S. Joseph, because it's not even close to what I thought he would have been. So let's keep going. So far, all the cases where I thought he was using extroverted thinking, I think I was misunderstanding what he was saying, and I think they were really introverted thinking things. I just didn't like the idea that he could be an ENTP because he didn't seem like an ENTP. But once I could get past the idea that he might not be an ENTP or an ENTJ, then it started opening up the possibilities of like, wonder what he could be. So, all right, let's move on to the next one.
My introversion could be it could be as a result of fear or worry. They're two separate things. Fear is false evidence appearing real, according to Les Brown. But once I aspire, I could become an ISFJ while I'm in ENTP basically, and become a better ISFJ than an actual typical ISFJ. But when I'm dealing with worry, and my worry is my introvert intuition, I worry about my own future all the time. And if I just get over my worry and have faith instead, then I could bring my unconscious to conscious, which is an INTJ, and I could become this INTJ. So,
oh my goodness! All right, so he's all over the place. He's all over the place. Could be an ENFJ, honestly. C.S. Joseph, an ENFJ. He might be an ENFJ. I feel like an INFJ would not be so all over the place the way that he is with his introverted thinking. I think he's like, could he be inferior introverted thinking? It's possible. The way that he rambles on about these things and doesn't really check his introverted thinking like the way that an INFJ would, to make sure that what he's saying isn't kind of off the rails. ENFJ would make a lot of sense. Let's keep going.
Conscious to conscious, which is an INTJ, and I could become this INTJ. So this is why.
By the way, he's like, I could become all these different types. Like, that's an extroverted feeling thing, actually. It's like, I could be this person, I could be that person, I could be this person over here. Like, that's really an extroverted feeling thing that he's describing. And it certainly leads credence to the possibility that he could be an extrovert, that he could be an ENFJ. Obviously, if he thinks he's an ENTP, he thinks he's an extrovert feeler, of course that fits. But the fact that he's so able to sort of slot into these other types makes me think possibly ENFJ. But INFJs can do it too. So let's kind of see what's going on.
A lot of my critics tell me that, oh, you're actually an ENTJ when they're trying to tie me by the worthless letter dichotomies. because they just don't understand the fact that my INTJ is a TE user. It is rational, which means I'm more organized than typical ENTPs, because guess what? I'm unconscious focused. That's my cognitive focus. My mind adapted to using my unconscious, not my subconscious, and I'm more organized and more responsible and more extroverted thinking than a typical ENTP would be. And people are not aware.
The guy's expression that he's talking to is just cracking me the fuck up. Are you seeing this shit? Are you seeing his facial? Look how pained this guy is. He's like, what are you talking about? I think that the guy in the right may be more introverted thinking preference, and it may be just like absolutely mind blown. What's the word? What's the English term for it? He's gobsmacked. He's gobsmacked by what C.S. Joseph is saying right now. I think because C.S. Joseph is just off some rails. I don't know where he's at right now. He's just going off on some tangent, and it's not the kind of tangent. It's not the kind of tangent that you get from extrovert intuition, where it's not trying to go anywhere. He is trying to go somewhere. He knows where he's trying to go. It's just he's just getting there in a very abstract kind of way. That's kind of out there a little bit weird, and that's what's throwing the guy in the right off a little bit, I think. So, all right, let's continue. Let's continue. It's pretty entertaining to watch their expressions, though.
This phenomenon.
It seems to me that focusing on the types just makes it more complicated. Because you just... I understand this stuff pretty well, but you kind of lost me there.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I thought. He lost him.
Well, but you kind of lost me there.
Oh, okay.
Like as opposed to just focusing on... And I'm glad you brought up the fear, because I think that's more fundamental, our emotions, and how we relate with our emotions. Because I think that is more fundamental, and then whatever type that ends up being, however we manage our emotions... That's the type that we can, I would just say, not that we are, but that's the type that we can use in that situation.
Correct. Absolutely.
So I see these types as just like a grab bag of things. I think the way that Jung talks about them, it's, okay, I'm going to manage my emotions in the best way possible, and then here are functions that I can incorporate in my life, like the archetypes. Here are archetypal functions that humans have evolved to use.
Alright, the video is screwing up there a little bit. Let's look at this next one.
How do you do your type? So you test people, you have your own test, and you type them?
So I do it, there's different methods. The main method that I utilize is known as the type grid, and this was taught to me by my mentors. And then in using the type grid as the foundation, I've developed other methods on top of the type grid, like the rapport method. That's what I use in my coaching sessions. But what that does is you have the type grid, which is basically just like times tables, like multiplication tables, right? And then I take Stephen Montgomery, PhD. He wrote People Patterns. A little bit of Mark Hunziker's work.
I feel like he name drops because he wants to look more intelligent. I think he wants people to take what he's saying seriously. He's using names in a defensive way, and that's why I thought he was an extroverted thinker initially. But he's not name dropping the way that extroverted thinkers do, and this is what kind of has thrown me off. And this is what has made me think that he might be an ENTJ for the longest time. Was he name drops a lot? He drops like, oh, I read this book and I'm read this author and there's this theory and blah blah blah. But I'm now realizing he's doing what the inferior introverted thinker does, which is overly justify your logic by any means necessary. If that, so have names in your back pocket ready to go, or reference this person or that thinker or whatever in a sort of preemptively defensive way of whatever it is you're saying, because you want to be taken seriously, not necessarily because you have so much credence or you care so much about what that person says the way that an extroverted thinker does. So it's just more and more that makes me think maybe ENFJ. So I'm leaning towards ENFJ now. I think he might be an ENFJ. I'm gonna remove my ENTP and ENTJ guesses. I am going to change this. I'm going to do this. I never would have thought I would have ended up on ENFJ for the evening, but you know what? Life is unpredictable, right? So we're gonna, we're gonna think that maybe, possibly, he is probably not an INFJ. He might very well be an ENFJ. So having some syncing and some audio issues. You ever get that syncing feeling? Alright, so there's only a few more videos. Let's jump to this 28-second video. Let's just see what happens on this video here.
Hey guys, it's CS Joseph.
Oh, this isn't the 28-second one. Why do my timestamps not look right? That's weird.
How about you go out?
All right. Well, let's listen to him yell a little bit. Let's just see if the ENFJ like let's try it on for size, right? Let's just think, could he be an ENFJ? And let's like listen to what he has to say, and let's just be like, is this what an ENFJ would sound like? Is this what? And remember, ENFJs, NF types, they're very kind of social justice-y a little bit, which I'm an INFJ, right? I'm not saying that like that's other people, like, yeah, okay, it's me too. But NFJs, NF types really care about moral issues quite a bit. So and that is something that Chase cares about a lot. He does talk a lot about moral issues. So I think it does lead credence to him being an NF type. So let's listen a little bit here.
Way to like judge people by their own standard instead of judging people by your own standard, because that's like literally proof that you're ignorant. Okay? Like seriously, have you ever heard of the golden rule? Treat others the way you want to be treated. Like seriously, have you ever heard of that?
A month ago.
All right, so this is a critique video actually, but that video was pretty funny. That little comment that he's like, "You ever heard of the golden rule?"
It's
Let's jump ahead a little bit here.
I just go into my INTJ shadow, and it's just kind of like, and I don't really watch television, but that's those times, and I'm just like, yeah, I might watch television, whatever, and it's not something that I have to do all the time, so everything happens.
Let's jump ahead.
ENTP, or yesterday, I was, and it's like, okay, your letters don't change. It's the sides of the mind that you're in. It really is about what areas of your head. And
Yeah, it's very definitive. I would never think extrovert intuition from that. I think you're an ENFJ, CS Joseph. I think you're an ENFJ. Really weird that that's where I landed. You're welcome to come on the show and tell me that you're not. But I mean, don't tell me that you're not. Honestly, we'll talk about it, right? If you come on the show, I'll ask you a lot of questions. I'll want to dig into your head a little bit. Yeah, but you use a lot of introverted intuition. I think, and I think you use a lot of introverted thinking. It's just, I think you use your introverted thinking in a very kind of defensive way, because you're worried people won't take your thinking seriously. I think you're worried that. I think there's a sense of insecurity, I guess, about your introverted thinking. Like, people won't take your logic seriously. So you kind of fall back on like this expert and that expert and whatever. At the end of the day, you're coming up with your own conclusions, but you're using these external experts as your shield to say, like, hey, my logic's sound, So, but you're very definitive and you're very focused on what other people's opinions are, and other people's values. Yeah, you're very focused on changing other people's values, which is a very strong extroverted feeling thing. So, all right, there we have it, friends. That's my guess. I did not expect to end up on ENFJ for C.S. Joseph. You'll have to let me know if you think he is ENFJ now that you've thought about it with me, I guess. We've been together here for about an hour. If you've stuck it out through the whole video, you owe it to me to leave a comment. Please do it. I really want to know what you have to think. If you think you might actually be an ENFJ, that's a really it's kind of unexpected for me as to where we ended up. So I just did my same process that I do with anybody. So, but maybe the more that I look at him, the more that I think about him, like maybe he is. So that would probably explain some of the confusion, I guess, between himself and host Eric. And it definitely explains the cult following. It explains a lot of things. Honestly, ENFJ explains a lot of things. So please sound off in the comments. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Do all that good YouTube stuff. Come on, you know you like this channel. It's good, right? I'm making good content. You want to see more. So all right. Thanks for joining me. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Have some bourbon. Relax a little bit. Treat each other nicely. Take care.